compensate for as they continue to cross. But, of course, the fan favorites, Mitro, Mongraal, and Benji, sitting pretty in retail, uncontested, of course.
I mean, fan favorites, mathematical favorites, analytical favorites. Some could say even logical favorites,
They
unless you're trying to clickbait other people, Shy. But as you can see, people don't go retail, full stop, because if you know they're in the game, they know they're better than you. That's it.
That's the problem.
And I mean, when you're at the very top, there is somebody who is going to be the best. And typically in Battle Royales, you see there is some kind of influence on that, whether it is the item drop you get, somebody contesting off the start. With trios and with this group in particular, they have done such a ridiculous job at managing the adversity and the factors against them to the point where the only time they are ever in a negative situation is when they try and force plays and go with split calls. Every other time, they're the ones dictating the flow of play. They have all the setup they need because, again, retail will give you all the loot in the world. You'll have all the ammo, you'll have max mats, you'll have whatever shields and stuff you're going. Teams that want to go there and want that generally will contest through, but if you're that good, it's not worth that loot to be knocked out. And basically fighting Mitro, Mongraal, and Benji is asking to be knocked out of the game. And I never thought we'd get to a point in Battle Royale where you could say, oh yeah, trying to take a straight up fair fight is a bad idea here. But there's no fair fight against these guys.
It's just not. And the wild part, what I wanted to jump on it and kind of tack onto this, no one contested it. No one argues against it. No one, tries to alpha up against it. They just say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to be not number one right now.
But and if anything, that just kind of compounds their advantage because they are that good, and then you're leaving with legendary everything, so much rotation, and again, I got a little flack yesterday for saying oh, watch these guys how to rotate. I'm like, yes, they make very good use of their utility. They have so much of it. They have a metric ton of utility, but how they use it is definitely top of the line and better than anyone else. But on top of the fact that it's not RNG for them anymore. No. They're like, if we can eliminate the RNG factor by getting all the loot and all we need is early game fights, that's a win-win for them.
That's right. No one wants to bite the bullet and battle these guys and they're fully decked. Not the first team, at least. So you have to be very careful because once they're fully decked and fully loaded out of retail row, the first squad to come across them is usually the one that gets punished the most. So we'll see how that kind of develops throughout the game here in Heat 1 Game 5.
All right, so as long as we're sticking around and watching them just load themselves up and prepare the arsenal for endgame, my question is, if you are going to contest, right? If you're tired of seeing them land retail, if you're a team in grand finals and you're like, we don't want to give them this loot every time, how would you go about fighting them?
So you would have to figure out a counter. What would be a counter for you? You'd have to alpha up on one of the two sections, blacktops or residential. You'd have to, in my opinion, get gear and then back up, play the long range game. You don't want to play the close range game. You got to break these players down, chip them down, and find some sort of advantage. Use their aggression against them. You know they're going to push. You know they're going to get bloodthirsty. That's probably the only time you're going to catch them slipping with their defense down.
Okay, so
the only time I can see.
I'll give a shout out right away to Clay. I think you could potentially Demogorgon sneak on them just because they're that confident.
Probably that too.
You might be able to do that, but if just saying straight up and not pulling off some cheesy play, as we now watch Benji, Keyman, and Jedzi taking a fight here against the trio. We'll flip back on over to that conversation in a second as Nikeva does get picked up there. Good use of the pyramid to make sure he's trying to get an angle, wants to get the full as the storm has finally settled. Nikeva does go down, sees the poke coming through, Luchador skin right on the other side, holding the wall player, pushing the box, 30 tag, that's the worst he could get, but the second one wasn't 180 to the face. Hello.
You got to respect that, recognizing the quick boost through the wall right there, so he quickly jumps up on the ramp, makes the clean edit, and doesn't miss a shot. And that's why he's able to win that trade without taking any damage in that final moment, just proving that he's the better player in that 1v1.
Yeah, and there's so many materials when you're able to control that area. But now, just going back to the retail conversation, I think the one way that you might be able to consistently challenge them out is if you hawk somebody on their drop. So literally disregard the fact of where you're landing and just try and immediately
axe them out.
Literally try and immediate 3v1 one of them. Only because not only can you get the man up advantage, I think that the mental there would be super strong as Amplify rips Coffee out, catching him, knowing that player doesn't want to jump to try and avoid the shot, not covering his head, getting a great angle and picking him up on the rotation at the rift.
And we've seen just those kind of 3v1 isolate strats off the bat. You see it happen in Salty Springs, certain places like Happy Hamlet, where there's a lot of rooftops, a lot of different locations that players tend to kind of, claim a building for themselves for capitalizing on loot. It's not the smartest to share loot from one house, but if you land on someone, beat them down, you do walk away with a slight edge coming out.
That's what I'm saying. If you can make it a 2v3, but then also that trio in particular, I think all it takes is one moment at the right time to tip them over the edge.
Yeah,
We've proved that they're able to come back and they have a strong mental game. There's no doubt there. But once it starts, the 2 times they did get second place, it was a tilt factor. It was, oh no, we legit got griefed as hard as possible. But sometimes you need to challenge people and go at it. I promise you, if you give this team retail every single game, they're going to continue to run it out. But at the same time, who is confident enough to go there and challenge, and who can come up with a strategy or a game plan to be able to execute and exploit them? And so far, the answer is absolutely no one. They're better than you. Just like that, rips the shot off. Unfortunately, not taking the time to hit the head, but it doesn't matter. Threeville still going down, and now they smell blood in the water, get the conversion, and they want to stock up now.
And that's crazy. The D-Mine trio initially kind of realized, okay, I think they had an idea who they were going against. They backed up right away as soon as they saw him over that mountain. But the moment he stopped to fire at them, Mongraal caught that small opportunity, no hesitation, fired back and backed up his teammate.
I mean, that's just, we talk about every little moment mattering. That's almost a slip of concentration. You can't be standing in the open towards the edge of a circle, firing a rifle off with 74 players left in the third circle.
Yeah, this early
it's not,
in the game is
Storm
ridiculous.
Surge about to tick over. I understand you want tags, but you have to at least put a wall towards the opening of the right. You saw the players rotating there.
And think about it. That right there just put them above the damage threshold. Prior to that, they had no damage.
Yep.
That was the first encounter.
And they could have legitimately had pressure on them. So I think that would be another way to talk about, where if you straight avoid them and force them to go for tags and play around it. But the flip side of that is, because Storm Surge is 25 damage every 10 seconds, you have so many shields, you can quite literally just out here. Look at that. Mongraal would just wait the 20 seconds, take the 50, take a full pot. He could do that effectively 3 times all the way through. So now he's stalled out a minute plus before even going into his bank of minis. And then each mini buys you another 10 seconds. By that time, Storm Surge will have turned off because everyone else is full monkeying, trying to find it.
So what you're saying is they're almost indestructible.
I'm not
they
saying,
get out.
But let's on a real note, if you have this amount of loot, you're this level of skilled, what is the limiting factor to your gameplay, right? It's your ability to get utility to put yourself in a position advantage and then execute on it. But they do that better, and we have seen that repeatedly. So if a team wants to beat them, they need to come up with something to help limit that. And it's not just it's just looking at the facts and the data from what they have repeatedly done over and over again. And just look at it now. And this is on prime display. We've seen so many highlight reel clips of Mongraal just beaming people out of the sky, whether it's an AR or an infantry rifle. It looks like he can't miss.
And that mark right there is going to be the marker to say, hey, we got a down player right here. Out comes some more pressure. He's just firing away, getting closer and closer. Quick wall retake right there. Player's still down, by the way, so they know it's a 1v1. That's a 76 pop right there on the flick, by the way. Just turns around, whips the shot, hits the shot. Player tries to get away, and he is going to be able to escape. There is someone still here, though, pressuring with the tac sub. And who is that? It's Teddy. Is it BGA Teddy? Yeah, he also got out of there.
On the side, but I think he just got out of dodge right there, saying, no, I'm good. Don't want anything to do with that, as MMB are going to dip into their veritable horde of shields to just knock themselves back up. Also, retopping off on mats there, because that's the other thing. When you can be this aggressive, they get their elims, and then they look to finish, which allows them to re-up on mats, because most of the time, when you're getting into Circle 3, Circle 4, people will generally have 120 plus builds out of the 150, and if you're able to close and use less than 90 builds, right, then you'll be fine. You'll top back off and you're a net gain plus the point. And now the immediate awareness to start getting rifle shots towards the edge of the zone, gatekeeping this team out right now.
It's crazy. I know we joked about them having tons of mobility, but they just got their first set of 6 shockwaves off of that team. So just coming in, they use whatever they got. Ground and pound, or landing on you. They're going to make big plays happen. That's what they're doing right here. Keeping this storm team, or this team pinned against the Storm, I should say. One's already down. Dynamo's by himself. You can't stop the onslaught here. You just can't.
And they have so much ammunition coming out. And it's like you see the momentum. You see them get rolling. You see their ability to get in here. You see Mongraal resetting himself. It's just so hard. Like, what do you do when you're facing that?
So here's the focus point. They've gotten multiple teams knocked at this point. They have control of the southern side of the zone for this matter. There is a launch pad here. Players are trying to leave. But notice, they're not done fighting. With all this loot, with all this gear, yeah, they can get to any zone possible. But they wrap their battles up quickly.
Right, and they know they can go late because the utility they have. They don't necessarily know their opponents are there. And this is the preset launch pad that the Giants team had put down beforehand. So they're not even burning any of their shockwaves or their launch pad, using recycled from the player they forced to run away when they first entered. So normally they would be in a bad spot in terms of rotation. We talk about the lanes you had. Every single team who was in their rotation lane left early or got pressured back by them. So now they bubble shield out, low launch, straight across, and the other team who is below them is launching as well. The one thing they need to be careful about, though, is where they land here, because they're coming straight on to old builds, and they might be in danger, but instead able to find a little bit of respite, box themselves up, and then turn, because they know that corridor is where everyone is going to be.
So look, something to learn right there, guys. Just knowing the path that you took. It was the most optimal path. 100% the team that was next to you is probably going to take the same path. It was clearly the best one to take.
And also, they just got Solary-nated, but because the top of their cones weren't built with wood, they were built with metal and built with brick, they were fine. And what did Mongraal do the second he saw one explosion? He edited himself down a row and metal coned himself up. That is the exact response when they come in. If in these circles you are not building with metal, you are asking to get naded. Limit your factors. Limit the things that can knock you out of the game as they catch somebody on the edge of the wall. Team fire him down, no problem. You talked about that was their first interaction at Circle 4, getting those tags.
And they haven't stopped.
And now they have 5 elims working in towards top 20 right now. And they've refreshed all of their ammunition and all of their utility off of the corpses of their enemy. Like, it's brilliant.
Crazy to think that it really is them against the region, right? Like, the region playing catch-up. You really see the difference in the gameplay. Now, look, Storm Wave 6 reveals itself. They know where they need to be. High ground time. It's textbook for these guys.
Yep, and making sure they're also putting a cone on their floor. And honestly, you can say it's them against the region catching up. I think it's the world catching up to these guys, right? Yeah. Like, there's not a single team in any other region who I would put against them and think, yep. And as he goes right away, 6 shockwaves, we begin the high ground take. Circle 5 and a half in, half out, right on the edge zone. Mongraal takes it away on the first time and then immediately begins pressuring down. He doesn't just want high ground, he wants all the
wants everything
that comes with it. Tommy goes down, gets the conversion as well, tops himself back up on mats, picks up 3 traps, and then Wadzi gets caught looking the wrong direction. Mongraal honestly tossing people around like they're stuffed animals.
Just making it look easy. That's a solo dolo shockwave play to pick up a 2-piece right there.
And now this is the rest of the game, period, full stop.
100%. And think about the execution, right? As soon as the zone was revealed, they didn't wait any moment. They immediately padded, got ahead of it, built up, and then took the high ground. They take what they want, and they make it work 100% of the time.
And now Mitro just built out ahead and made sure he connected down to the tart, but now he's starting to harass the people who have the highest likelihood of being forced by somebody else. He's looking for straight AR shots to try and pick up elims, because if you don't fire them down there, you can't get points. But this is how you have those massive games. When you throw random bullets down towards the side, well, not random, but when you're throwing bullets down, hoping for tags, hoping for elims, but you don't get that if you're not in this position. And what I want you to pay attention to as a spectator from this point on, count the number of times Mitro, Mongraal, and Benji are shot at or threatened for the rest of the game. After their high ground take, count the number of times they actually take team fire, because now they just full shockwave over to zone priority. Check that bottom side. Now everyone has to rotate past them, but they left one player on the other side. Benji is still on ultimate high on the far side. They knock down that tunnel, exposing those guys. This is so good.
They're just controlling the lobby right now, controlling the lobby. Not even blocking their sides. Everyone's flying across. when you own the pace of the game, look at how they just control it. I can only imagine in their brain, it's like, oh, you want a little bit of high ground? Take that. They cut that off. They cut your supply. It's like you choking. They're just choking out the lobby.
And look at how they rotated. Mitro shockwave back over to where Benji was. So now Mongraal's on the backside of the storm doing the sweep, and he's going to build himself over to connect. Like, this is why they're the best, and they just take shots, and you get this opportunity to shoot out the people rotating because you're in the position. Mitro picks up 2, no problem there, swaps over the minigun and begins immediately layering on the tarp underneath, putting as much pressure as possible. 9 elims, and we haven't even gotten to the placement threshold yet. Still 13 trios up. And again, how many times have they been shot at?
I was gonna say, by the
0
way,
so far.
I'm still counting at when they finally get shot at. It hasn't happened yet. I almost want to say, since that first team shot at them, no one's managed to have time to even fire back because their aggression is that crazy. Either they're not missing shots or they're just dominating position-wise and putting you on your heels.
And constantly dropping down, reconnecting, popping back up, checking to see where it's around, where are people tunneling, where can I get picks. There's a reason they're the top earners out of Europe. There's a reason they're the best trio in the game. And again, just hitting placement threshold points now, but they're sitting pretty already with 10 elim points and constantly looking for more, but Mitro is out of mats.
This is like a nice VOD review, you know, Sundown. It's just going
and they just
so clean
right there,
right
too.
now.
And I mean, this is textbook. Miro going down there. There's another team we saw in contention getting the knock, and he's just running through. And again, this goes all the way back to retail. You don't get the bullets to sit up here with a minigun for a veritable eternity if you're not dominating through early. It's setting up your early game to win the match. That's what they're about. And I mean, it's exactly what Shai was talking about. Kinstaar goes down, misses out on the top 8 as well as MMB just run the lobby. It looks like they're playing against bots. It's the trio and everyone else playing catch up as he runs another heavy snipe into the pump, and Benji's right on the side. The player doesn't even know. Camo goes down right away. Batman won't save you there. Able to get the shot, not quite finding it. Gets the pump, and he picks it up as well. A brilliantly finished onto him as Mitro gets Harmy on the other side. Top 7 trios now.
And that was Ghost Camo who goes down right now. So again, they're out of materials. Time to ground and pound with the scariest trio in the European region. And you see they work together, following Mongraal's final builds right there because he did pick some up. Someone's going to go right up to the top here. Mongraal's going to lay him down. Mongraal does get traded out, though. Finally, someone manages to get some shots on the Young King right here. And the minigun pressure is out. He's dominating. Quick flick right there. And Falcon gets taken out the game, Sundown.
And now he only has one build to be able to get up. He has one piece of metal. He needs to find a way to go up. Has the launch pad. That's retail again. Up for the high ground. It's a 1v1v1. Can he find it? Mitro gets that first pump. Other player coming in off the launch pad. Not able to find it as the wall blocks him up. Doesn't hit the side jump. It's a 1v1 going through. But that was 13 elims coming out from MMB. Keats was forced out of the storm. 0 builds. Has 5 campfires but can't put him to use. Needs to be able to find somewhere to put him down. Unfortunately, there's 1, but he needs 5 other spots. Looking for the snipe, can't find it. Benji actually gets the credit for that one, but the victory royale goes over to Pepper. The notorious for 1v3ing, launches himself up there, is the first person to challenge MMB.